Peace and blessings, family. Back again with another one. Always good to connect with you, to vibe out, to share matters of the heart with you. Today's conversation, and I say conversation, although it's just me talking, I always look at this as a cellular event, right? That there were agreements that were made before we even arrived here on this planet that we would even have this conversation soul to soul. So I appreciate you for honoring the cellular agreement that we made to meet at this point. So what's on the heart for today? As I look around, and I'm sure everyone else looking around as well, and seeing all the stuff that's happening on the planet, whether we're talking about clearly the war in Ukraine, crazy gas prices. I think we still in the pandemic. I don't even know, but there's a lot going on. Mass shootings, can't forget about them, right? That part. But yeah, just a lot of stuff going on the planet vibrationally, right? And whenever we see things like this, of course, as seekers, as metaphysicians, as mystics, as light workers and light warriors, we look at those as prayer requests, right? There's clear opportunities for us to hold the space, to see this world, to see the people as perfect, whole, and complete. Now, when I think about prayer, I think about affirmative prayer. Affirmative prayer really claiming and stepping into the spiritual qualities that are already been given to us, right? So depending on how you're entering into this conversation, or from what on ramp you're getting into the conversation, whether you grew up in a Christian household or a Jewish household, or a Muslim household, it depends on which type of religion or experiences you may have with prayer. That's going to determine, I guess, your understanding of affirmative prayer, right? Or just kind of how it's received. So from that perspective, I could tell you I grew up in a Baptist, Kojic, Pentecostal household, right? So I kind of checked off a lot of different boxes in terms of how we prayed, right? And a lot of times I done worn out a lot of pants, getting on my knees, praying, begging God for stuff. And there's no judgment on that at all, because it was the feeling tonality that I was able to create. And a lot of those prayers were answered. However, as I continue down this spiritual path of unfoldment, what I'm realizing is there's a different technology as well called affirmative prayer. Now, with affirmative prayer, we're really anchoring ourselves into the presence of God, right? Expanding our heart, opening our heart space through gratitude, which kind of ripens the field, or ripens our availability to receive the things that have already been given to us, right? And so I like to say there's a biology of affirmative prayer. So if you look at it, there's 6 steps in total. So the first step is gratitude. And so as we get into gratitude, I always like to say gratitude is that leavening agent for us. No matter how low our vibes may be in life, we can always find something to be grateful for, whether it's the heart pumping in our chest, the air in our lungs, the blood coursing through our veins. There's always something to be grateful for. And of course, getting into that space of gratitude allows us to receive even more, right? It kind of goes back to that old saying, remember when you was little, your mom and dad said, you keep acting up or you keep crying, I'm gonna give you something to cry about. I love that, because once again, you keep being grateful, I'm gonna give you something to be grateful about. Is how it works on a spiritual level. Shout out to Reverend Beckwith for throwing that in there. So you keep being grateful, gotta give you some more things to be grateful about. That's why we start off the prayer with gratitude. How grateful I am for. And then we move into the second step. And the second step, of course, is recognition. Recognizing the very presence of God, that there is one God, there's one power, there's one presence, there's one love, there's one source, right? That is omniactive, omnipotent. Omniactive meaning it's in everything. There's nowhere you can go. Everything on this planet, everything in this dimension and another is all tied into source, all tied into God. And God is all knowing, all present everywhere, in everything. So we anchor that into the recognition of God's presence. And then the next step is saying, in this recognition of God's presence, I also know that I am one with God. That's the unification. I am one with God. In the Bible, it talks about living and moving and having your being in God. So there's an infinite field. We recognize this field. And we also know that we are one with this field. There is no separation between us and God. Any perceived separation is an illusion, oftentimes fueled by the ego, because the ego is anchored to this world. The ego is about preserving the status quo, what's here. But I always like to say the end of the caterpillar is the beginning of the butterfly, right? So being able to govern the ego and know that you are here for transformation, not maintaining the status quo. Right. So going beyond that and saying, I'm not separate from God, but I am one with God. God and I are one. I love the saying, potato, French fries. That's super dope. That's Achilles Beckwith. Potato, French fries, one with God, uniquely expressed as each other. Right. So that's unification. The next step is realization, realizing that in this unification, in being one with God, there are divine spiritual qualities that we all have, right? We've already been given. So some of the spiritual qualities that we've been given are love, beauty, intelligence, right? Abundance, freedom, joy. All of these qualities have already been given to us. So as we move through the prayer, we're just coming into the realization, right? We're not at the level of the condition. We're saying, hey, you know what? I'm one with the presence of God, and in the presence of God is which I live, move, and have my being. Therefore, I know that I also am love, I am beauty, I am joy, I am grace, I am all these things. So if someone has, say, a prayer request because they've been diagnosed with a condition, the spiritual quality that you're seeing in that individual is wholeness. We're not even worried about the condition. That's already been talked about, whatever. We're realizing that the person is whole. If a person has a prayer request for finances, well, then the spiritual quality that we're coming into in realization as we're praying is abundance, right? So we're actually tapping into the quality first, as opposed to focusing on the condition. Because as we know, energy flows where your attention goes. So if we continuously focus on the condition, we're going to get more of the condition. I know Joe Dispenza talks about it, trying to move matter with matter. That's the hardest thing to do. We're moving it with energy, with our attention, with our awareness, with our realization that the things we are praying for have already been given to us. So our responsibility is to maintain the posture and the acceptance that has been given to us, which takes us to the next step, right? And so the next step in it is, let me move this here, it's Thanksgiving. Right? Giving thanks for it, knowing that it's already been given to us. Our responsibility is to accept it, to claim it, to receive it, not tomorrow, not the next day, or not next week, but right now. And I love how Neville Goddard often weaves this into his philosophy, into his approach of living in the end, right? So what does your life look like, or how would it feel vibrationally? How would it feel if your prayer was answered? What's the feeling tone of that? That's the thanksgiving of it. It's maintaining that posture of saying, you know what? Thank you. I've received it. It's mine. I accept it. And so you carry that feeling tone in your body that the end is already accomplished. Your job is just to kind of walk it out vibrationally. That's the beauty of Thanksgiving. You give thanks for the realization of the spiritual qualities that have already been given and that are being expressed in your life. It's not up to us to figure out how. How don't belong to us. There's so much how, and there's things that go on in this world that we don't even know how it's happened, right? I have no clue how the stars hang in the sky at night. Ain't for me to know. It is what it is, right? So don't get entangled by the how. And another thing is to make sure that you don't muck up your prayer, right? Or introduce turbulence in your prayer by being inconsistent, right? Inconsistent from respect of you pray one thing, you accept it, but then in conversation with family and friends, there's this static, right? For example, if your prayer could be about experiencing more love, you accept that you're experiencing more love in your life, but then in conversation with family and friends, you say, ain't no good love out here to be found. There's no loving people, right? So it's making sure that you stay consistent vibrationally with your word. I love how Reverend Deborah Johnson from Inner Light Ministries says, she says her grandma told her, don't be like a cow that gives good milk and then knocks over the bucket, which is a perfect expression, right? Don't knock over the bucket. Accept it as done. Keep that feeling tone of it already being done, And then the last step is release it. Release it. It's not up to us to figure everything out. It's up to us to operate the law. It's to us to operate the technology through our practice and maintain the posture of it already being done. Release it, let it go, give it to the field, give it to God, and allow God to do what she does, right? The beauty, the love, the joy, the intelligence of the universe will fill that. So 6 steps in affirmative prayer: gratitude, recognition, unification, realization, thanksgiving, and then the release and the let go, which is a beautiful part as well. Being able to just release it and let go. In many respects, I look at that as just love, right? The love, understanding. It's easy to release and let something go when you truly understand that you have perfected your love, right? That's the act of self-love, that knowing that I can let it go and that God loves me enough that this word is going to come back to me completed. That's love. That's ultimate love. So that's really understanding how much God loves you, that you can let it go and it's already going to be answered. Loving yourself is allowing you to let go, to release it, and allowing God to fill it in for you, which in many respects is you just coming into alignment with it because it's already been given. That's it, family. I love you. I appreciate you. I always say, if it ain't all good, it ain't all done. I say.